What is up, YouTube? Today we're going to be going over 10 mistakes that Deadlock players commonly make that's costing you games. All these are going to be easily fixable, so if you're watching the video and you find yourself thinking, oh, I do that sometimes, then don't worry. You will be a better player by the end of this video. And I also tried to come up with like 10 things that are less talked about and maybe less obvious and probably haven't been featured in other videos of the same format. So hopefully you do find this helpful. And of course, if you do find it helpful, then don't forget to leave a like. That's enough yapping though. Let's get into mistake number one. Okay, guys, mistake number one is hyper-focusing the healing minion when you're basically full HP or just a little bit poked out. When the waves meet, people do this all the way up to Eternus. They'll just start shooting the healing minion when they don't really need the heal. Something you need to keep in mind is that the healing minion actually heals you the more HP that you're missing. Meaning you should be using the healing minion as sort of like an insurance. So you should clear the other minions, shoot the other minions first, maybe take a bit of a trade with the enemy laner, and then fall back to that healing minion. And not only will it be more effective because you're just getting more HP from it, but even you yourself will have been more effective because you've successfully leveraged a bit of your health bar to get some pressure in the lane. So stop just mindlessly running up to the healing minion and shooting it right away when the waves meet, unless you're already lower poked. Try and focus these other minions, take a bit of a trade, and then you can fall back to that. Real quick though, one exception of course is if you're trying to full clear the wave really fast, but you are full HP, of course you can just shoot it and shoot everything as fast as possible. Say there's a camp up or you're trying to make it to the bridge buff or something, then of course that would be an exception. But as far as the actual lane and, you know, trading in lane, this is definitely how you want to play it. Okay, mistake number two, guys, and I see people doing this all the time, is when you're pushing a walker, be very careful of the fireball damage that the walker sends out. So many people just sit in the fire damage that lands on the ground and take so much unnecessary damage, and it's very easily avoidable. When you're pushing that walker, just kind of look at the walker, notice when it's sending out those fireballs, kind of see where they land, and just space away from them. Just play off to the side while you're shooting the walker. Not only do these do a lot of damage, but the dot that it applies to you makes it so you can't ride the zip line. And because of the damage that they do, if somebody ends up coming to defend it or coming to fight you, you're going to want to have that extra HP that you could easily have just by spacing out from these fireballs. So just pay attention when you're pushing walker, guys. Do not sit in that damage. Move a little bit to the left, to the right, maybe get a little bit of verticality, and you'll be good in the long run. All right, this next one, guys, is pretty simple, but I already know a lot of you guys have fallen for this, especially you Billy players, Calico players, Abrams players. Hell, even if you're just really into burger boxing, you've probably fallen for this. Make sure you're checking the enemy items after the first wave to see whether they bought rebuttal. It happens all the time. You don't hold tab, you don't check the item, they come back to lane, they use their parry, and you're thinking, oh my god, I can just smack them now because it's going to be down for a little bit, and then all of a sudden they parry a lot faster because that -2-second cooldown on rebuttal, and you probably end up dying, and that might cost you a bit of the lane, maybe that costs you a bit of the early to mid game, and who knows, maybe in the long run that costs you some games sometimes. So, but it's an easy fix. Just hold tab after that first wave, see whether they bought rebuttal. If they did, be a little bit more careful, but if they didn't, then you can go about your merry way and go back to burger boxing to your heart's content. Do not get rebuttal baited. The fourth mistake that you should stop doing is what I call the mindless panic parry on the rejuve crystal. So right when that rejuve crystal hits the ground, a lot of times people will just run up and immediately parry. Of course, you do want to have somebody parrying on the rejuve crystal, but if you are the one parrying, you need to be a little bit careful not to waste that parry, because let's say it's a 2v2 situation, a 3v3, a 1v2, any of these like smaller skirmishes at the mid boss. Let's just take a 2v1 for example. If you run up and parry right away and your teammate heavy melees the crystal at the same time, while the enemy runs up and parries, your teammate's going to get parried, and you're going to have your parry on cooldown, which means the enemy can get a free heavy melee off on the crystal because you wasted your parry. Be a little bit patient, wait for that sound cue, kind of watch them and see if they're going to go for that heavy melee, and then hit your own parry. Now, of course, if it's a hectic mid-boss fight and it's like a 6v6, there's a lot of people there, and there's a ton of stuff going on, it is still good to have one person just get in there right away to get a parry off, because then there's other teammates that can parry in heavy melee. So this is more so talking about those smaller skirmishes around the mid-boss fight. But I promise you, the more patient and composed you are around mid-bosses, the better you're going to be. And by sitting on that crystal and just waiting and daring the enemy to make a decision, you're putting them on the spot, and a lot of times they're going to make the mistake first. So all right, guys, this next mistake is a bit more nebulous because it's gonna kind of vary from game to game depending on the characters and the timing of stuff, but people still do this very often, and the mistake is you're waiting too long to buy the counter item that you need for that given game. So let's say you're playing into like a lash plus a bebop plus ability, a lot of characters that get countered by counter spell. You can't be waiting till 20-25 minutes into the game to get that counter item. A lot of the times the game is going to be decided by then. You should really aim to have it by like that 15-minute mark where there's going to be a decent amount more team fights and where you can get a lot of value out of it. Or let's say you're playing against an Infernus, they have a couple of slowing hexes and you're a dash-based character like Mina, plus some toxic bullets or some other anti-heal. Again, you can't be waiting till 20-25 minutes to get that dispel magic. You should really be having it by the 15-minute mark so that you can actually use it in the important fights that are going to decide the game. So guys, stop being greedy, stop putting off these counter items to go greedier damage items, because honestly, they're going to keep you alive, and it's going to help you do more damage, and it's actually going to get you more kills, which is going to get you your items anyway. And of course, if you don't know what items to buy to counter certain comps and all that, I do have a video on my channel that you can check out that'll help a lot. Guys, I see so many people do this next one, including myself. When I'm not paying attention, I'll even do it. And you either do one of two things. You either use your last bullet on a minion that's 1 HP, and then you're reloading and you can't secure the soul, or you just sit there and reload while the minion dies, which also means you can't secure the soul. What you want to be doing is extending your mag by using your stamina to get some infinite rounds by simply just, you know, dash sliding or sliding down a bit of a ramp. Stamina is a great resource in the laning phase to secure souls, because if you don't use it, you're going to spend a lot of your time reloading, which means you won't be shooting souls, which means you're going to get souls denied and you're going to lose out on farm. So make sure that you're paying attention in the laning phase to your ammo and when you need to reload, so you can make sure you make use of that stamina, especially if you have a lot of pressure and aren't actively fighting. Then definitely use that stamina to secure souls. Okay guys, mistake number 7 is a parry that I see so many people do and that you could take advantage of very easily. So what this is when you're the one closing the distance to somebody, you're the aggressor, let's say. So I get up close to this Vindicta. A lot of times this Vindicta player is going to parry right when I get in range of the light melee. It just happens a lot of the time. It's just people's initial instinct. And what you can do is, instead of light mailing into the parry and getting parried, of course, is you can just walk up and keep shooting them. You can close the distance, get super close, and now you're playing a mind game with them where you're just going to keep shooting them. And a lot of times, if they didn't parry right away, they're going to parry at some point during this. And of course, once they do parry, then you can start smacking them for a little bit until the parry comes back up. Unless you're at like a super low rank where nobody's parrying, or you're at like a super high level where people have kind of caught on to this a bit and don't get baited as hard, a lot of times they are just going to parry once you walk up and get in range of that. So be a little bit careful of getting parried yourself, but for the most part, just try and abuse this while their parry's down. Can kind of own them. Mistake number 8, guys, is neglecting the box runs in the early game when you don't have the kill potential in your lane. Guys, there's so much healing in Deadlock between the healing minions, healing items, healing characters' kits, natural regen, all of that. So a lot of times, especially if the enemies are playing super scared under their tower, you don't have a lot of kill potential. So clear the wave, get your pressure, and go on a box run. The boxes are super, super strong. Plus golden statue, permanent buffs throughout the entire game are super, super good. Don't waste your time sitting at the tower line, shooting them from a distance, not really getting anything done. Use that time, be productive, and get some boxes. And at the end of the day, you can always make it back for the next wave, and maybe you'll have some more kill potential on that wave. Who knows? But even if you weren't able to make it back to that next wave, especially if you're in a duo queue, it's really not that big of a deal, because when you share a wave in Deadlock, you're only generating 8% extra souls by sharing 2 ways, which means it only takes a few boxes in that early game box run to generate more souls overall for your team, while your dual laner just sits there and soaks the wave on his own. Now, of course, be a little bit careful, because if they aren't able to hold the wave on their own, they could get killed and get ganked, and then you don't want that. So use your judgment here, but overall, the point is go on your box runs when you have the pressure in your lane and you don't have the kill potential. You know, be productive. Okay, I've died making this mistake, and that mistake is when you're going towards the bridge buffs at 5 minutes, or at any point in the game, but this is probably the most common time this is going to happen, is you don't check to see if somebody's already up on the bridge when you're using the jump pad. So what happens is they're playing up on the bridge, you use the jump pad without looking, they shoot you off of it, which stuns you and does a lot of extra damage, and puts you in a really bad spot where a lot of times you'll die. So be careful. A lot of times they'll even have 2 people set up for that bridge buff if they have a lot of pressure in any given lane and they've gotten there first. All you gotta do is look up towards the bridge before you take that jump pad to see if anybody's there. And now if you're full HP and there is somebody there, you can decide whether you want to take it anyway and maybe go fight them, or maybe you're a little bit poked, and if you take the jump pad and they stun you, they'll kill you. You decide to just go back to lane. It's really up to you, but as long as you have that information and check for that information, you'll be in a good spot. All right, guys, and mistake number 10 is a mistake that will cost you a lot when it comes to team fighting. And that is when you rotate to a team fight while sitting on a ton of souls that you could spend on an item to secure your power spike. We all know this. We've all done this. We sit there, we farm a bunch of waves, we clear a bunch of jungle, then we have a lot of gold, but then all of a sudden we just see a juicy fight breaking out and we want to get there right away so we can clean up some, you know, some low HP targets and stuff like that. But then we get there and we don't feel as strong as we could have been because we didn't buy our 2 items and we were sitting on a bunch of gold that we didn't actually invest in anything. Or even worse, a lot of the farm that we did have was unsecured because of a lot of it was jungle farm, and then we die in the fight, we drop the bag to them, and now a lot of our farm is gone. So guys, make sure you're spending that gold before you get into these important team fights, ideally in the secret shop, so you can kind of stay out on the map and be ready for those fights. But if you have to, sometimes just go back to base to really secure that power spike. Okay, that is it, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed and learned a thing or two. Let me know which one of these mistakes you were making before but are not going to make anymore, and of course subscribe for more helpful Deadlock guides. Stay safe and healthy as always. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.